Lance Hall here for Let's Discuss with Lance Hall. Happy to welcome a couple of members of Steel City to the program tonight. We got guitarist Mike. I'm going to screw it up. I know it. Tell me your last name.
Floros.
Mike Floros, and Tony Stahl, keyboard player. We may be joined by Jason on bass here in a little bit, but he might have a gig as well. But gentlemen, how you doing tonight?
We're
Doing
fabulous.
great.
All right. Band is called
Fabulous.
Steel City. The album is Reverence, coming out September 20th on Frontiers Music. Third album, third label, but you guys keep growing. I mean, Frontiers is big time. How did this come about?
Oh, well, first of all, thank you for having us on. We really do appreciate the time. Uh,
Absolutely. I appreciate your time as well.
well, it came about through, from what I'm to understand, Jason, our bassist, has had a relationship with Frontiers for quite some time. He's been involved with some bands that have been on the label, including Chaz West's band, Westbound.
Yeah.
So, Jason had the opportunity to present the first two Steel City albums to Frontiers, and uh, they really liked the music. I think from what he told me, the first album they heard was actually the first one, which was Fortress, and they really dug it. They kind of dug the whole vibe of what we were doing, and they wanted it to bring us aboard. And they were really happy to hear also that Roy, Kathy, and Anthony White are part of the group. So I mean, it was pretty fun. It was pretty interesting. Never expected it in a million years, but they've been extremely supportive and absolutely wonderful through the entire process. So we couldn't be happier to be here.
Excellent. I want to jump right into the album because we talked for a moment there before we started recording. You asked if I had heard it, and I said yeah. And so I made some notes on a few of the songs, and I mean, fabulous stuff, guys. Fabulous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Uh, First track one, I Ain't Dreaming About You. A solid kick in the pants opener. Video's great. You got bikes, planes, and girls. You can't go wrong there. Um, Tell us how this track came about.
Oh gosh, it's just one of those tracks that just kind of pops in your head. You've got voice record on your phone, and it's honestly, I think I've been asked this question already, elsewhere, and it was just one of those things that just kind of popped in your head, and it just kind of came together very quickly. And just really don't know what came first as far as the vocals or the riff or whatever it was, whether it was the chicken or the egg, but just happy that the song came together the way it did. And it's kind of fun because when you're doing this stuff and you're going through and you're recording this at home and you're doing the demos, you start to feel like a vibe for how you'd like to arrange the song. And I'm like, oh, this would be cool, like a really bad breakdown here or whatever. And it just, like I said, it all fell together, and really happy that the song came out the way it did. And I had some great help with the backing vocals on this album. I'm in another band called Love and Chains, and the lead singer of Love and Chains is Rob Kane, and he and I did most of the backing vocals on this album. And
Awesome.
yeah.
Track two, Hammers Fallen. Listen to this. I'm a guitar solo guy. To me, I'm gonna hit both of you up for this one. Your solo on this had sort of I thought it had a Steve Stevens approach to it with the sound and everything. A different, you weren't quite using a ray gun, but I thought you had a real good Steve Stevens vibe on the solo. And then the keys on the ending, I thought were fabulous. So
Oh,
whichever one of you two wants to jump in on this, go for it.
Go ahead and
well,
talk about your keys, man.
my keys. Yeah. Well, I usually get the songs before Roy, so it's after Mike has done them, and then I get them, and I just try to throw stuff in there that's maybe a little different, not all formulaic, and make them interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Excellent.
that particular song itself, it's interesting that you say Steve Stevens because now that you say that, I can see, I can hear that now that you've mentioned it. The song itself, to me, it's like there's a few songs in this album that have like some Striper influence, and I think if you listen to the opening of the song, it definitely has a bit of that Striper vibe to it. And then when it kicks into the first verse, to me, that was more or less like excuse me, more or less like a Sammy Hagar kind of vibe. And
Hmm.
that's where I kind of felt like I was going with the guitar solo as well. But I think when you have that, like the ascending hammer-ons or pull-offs or whatever you want to call them, I think I totally get where you're coming from with the Steve Stevens vibe on the guitar solo.
Cool.
But yeah, that song was to me had a little bit of Sammy Hagar vibe, had a little Kiss vibe to it, and a little bit of Striper.
Excellent. No Angel, you talk about the backing vocals. To me, this sounded like the classic backing vocals that either Van Halen or Chickenfoot had, which you got with Michael Anthony on this song. I had that sort of Van Halen feel to it, and that
Wow.
long note that Roy holds is incredible.
Oh, that yeah.
Yeah.
That's it's really Roy is, you know, a top shelf singer, man. He is just one heck of a front man. I mean, he does a lot of things extremely well. And one of the things he kind of you know, had a little fun with Mach 2, where he's like, "Don't step on my Brad Delp notes, Mike." And that's definitely probably one of his Brad Delp notes there because it's
Yeah.
just long, it's
Yeah,
held, it's beautiful. I mean, he sounds really great on that song. He did such a great job on the album. We really have to commend Roy for doing as well as he did.
absolutely. Track 4, Dizzy. My note says this song is a hit. I mean,
Hmm.
infectious. When you hit that chorus, it is infection. And to me, this song just cries out for a video. You know, I don't know if I quite came up with a concept, but I had a video in my head, you know, as I was listening to it, you know, of like spinning round and round, obviously off the Dizzy thing. But that chorus is absolutely infectious.
Oh wow.
Hmm.
Wow, cool. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we dug the song. That was one of the songs we were definitely considering for a video. Um, who knows, man, if we have any budget left, maybe we'll get one more. But we just shot a video yesterday for No Angel. So um we had the band out here and then JC is actually gonna head down to North Carolina and hopefully be able to get some material with Roy and we'll have that video coming out hopefully by the time the album's released.
Cool. Tony, I got one more song to get to, then I'm going to get to you on some of your keyboard work here.
Sure.
Walk Away. Mike, your tone is just nasty on this song. Very Badlands, Jakey Lee type of thing. And Anthony was just a monster on the drums on this song.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um,
Fabulous.
yeah, all credit on the tone for that stuff. Um, quite honestly, we have one of the best mix engineers in the business helping us and working with us. Almost like if we were the Beatles, he would be the fifth Beatle, and that's Ty Sims.
Cool.
He's just absolutely incredible. Does some amazing work, and his partner Eric Johnson also deserves a shout out because he does. He and Ty work so seamlessly together,
Mm.
and Ty is he's a great dude. He really um, when we get together with Ty and he's asking me about production, he always asks, what type of what are my reference mixes? What are the albums that I like that I would like this, to get a little vibe on. And he just knocks it out of the park every single time. So props to him for picking great guitar tones.
Excellent. The next track, it was sort of a 1-2 punch. Track 6 and 7, you got Bank. I'm like, what a freaking opening on this song. I was listening to it with AirPods in, and I mean, it was blowing my ears out, the stuff you were doing on that intro to Bank. And then you go right into Midnight Dancer. And my note here says pummeled. I'm being pummeled, you know. The bass line in that song just throbbed. And Tony, what I liked in Midnight Dancer was the song has so much happening with the guitars, the bass, and the drums. And to my ear, your keys were there, but they were very subtle, but they added so much,
Mm.
was what I got out of that.
Yeah, thank you. That's kind of with I don't want to overpower things with the keyboard. This is heavy guitar oriented material. So I just kind of like want to be in the background and augment whatever, like a fill-in almost for a lot of the material. Because it just calls for that sort of vibe. And I love the Hammond. That's my, Hammond and piano are the two that I like the best,
Mm.
so
And that's that was the other note I made. The guitars and the keys just mesh amazingly on this. Like you said, you fill in perfectly and right where there needs to be something, and I love that part of it. But like you say, it wasn't overpowering.
Right.
Awesome stuff.
I really like
Um,
what I'm sorry. I would say I
no,
really
go
like
ahead,
what
Mike.
he did with that song because that song, it's like when you listen to the song itself, it's kind of a for Steel City, it's kind of a departure because it's a lot heavier than what we normally do. And I
Mm,
think Tony's keys on that song kind of bring it back to, I guess, like our realm or within the vicinity of what we're more or less known for. And I think Tony really kind of captures the song beautifully. And like I said, maybe beautifully for such a heavy song isn't the right word, but it just really, I think he really hit it out of the park on the album, especially on that tune.
yeah. Well, I got to ask, what were you doing on the intro to Bank? How did you get all those sounds and everything? I mean, that was incredible.
Um, I think that's one of those things where you're just kind of sitting down, you've got your digital audio workstation in front of you, and you're like, what can I do to make this kind of cool? And I think quite honestly, if I remember correctly, when I was recording that song, I was probably on a bit of a Van Hagar
Mm,
uh a kick. I think I was listening to a lot of like like the later Van Halen releases, and I wanted to do something that was kind of pound cake-ish at the beginning.
okay,
And
yeah.
that's kind of where that whole thing came from. And I think it took a few tries. It wasn't something that that I was able to do just like immediately. But I think it came out okay.
It came out, yeah, trust me, but it came out okay. It came out great, freaking great. Um, Track 10, I'm embarrassed here because I can't read my writing on the title. I got blind. Is it blinder?
Blinded.
Blinded. Okay, I can't read my D here.
Mhm.
Um, True Deep Purple feel on this one. That
That's
I got.
Tony's keys there.
Yeah,
That's Tony's keys for sure.
Yeah.
absolutely. Uh, Tony,
Huge
tell us
influence.
about the keys on this one.
Oh, John Lord and Don Airey, just huge influences of mine, and I try to mimic that without, actually copying it, but that's what I hear
Yeah,
for those type of songs. Yeah.
cool. Mike, you got anything to weigh in on Blinded with?
When I first started making, or writing for this album, well, I don't really, and I shouldn't say for this album, I don't really write for any particular album. What I do is I just write.
Mm,
And I send these guys, and I really should send them a sympathy card because they have to hear me singing like high pitched vocals because I'm singing for Roy or
sure.
like if I have another band, I'm singing for either Roy or Rob. So they're hearing me sing these high pitched vocals, and I thought when I initially sent this, I thought that song was probably going to be one of the singles. And when we had our initial meeting with Jason and I ended up having a meeting with Frontiers, there was three or four songs that they wanted to choose from, and that wasn't one of them. I was kind of surprised, but
Mm,
I thought it had single potential to it, and it's a really fun song to play as far as I like the guitar solos in that song. I'm really not like the guy that worries too much about the solos. I'm more worried about the song being complete. But that is a fun song to play the guitar solos too, and I really liked the way the backing vocals came out in Blinded. That was probably one of my favorite songs for the backing vocals.
cool. We're down to the final track, The Journey. And when this song came on, it brought back a vibe of another song that I hadn't played in a long time. And I got to see if I'm totally off base or if you were going for this or not. With that bell chime and that slight little bit of guitar right in the beginning, was that a nod to Fractured Mirror by Ace
Yes,
Frehley?
yes, you're the first person that got it
Really?
for sure. Yeah, yeah. It was like it was one of those things where it's like to me it's like when I started playing the song and I heard like it's basically I think it's a D chord that I'm playing right at the beginning. Um, I just heard the bell and I'm like that would fit, and I'm like I know it's very Ace Frehley, but one of my friends was like, well, that's like Metallica. It's like, I'm like, no, no. No, I'm gonna slap you now. No. Um, because I'm really not a Metallica fan. I don't hate them. I'm just not like that guy that's like that's the first band that I reach for. It's just not there.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I was a big Ace Frehley fan growing up. He was probably my first guitar idol. I actually have a Washburn Ace Frehley signature guitar. Um, so for sure. Yeah.
Nice.
And then if you listen to the guitar solos in there, you're going to hear probably a bit of Neil Sean and I Roy always jokes about stepping on his Brad Delp notes. I told him don't step on my Reb Beach notes here because
Yeah.
that's what yeah.
There you go. No, and I had to listen to them both. I'm listening to the song, and I actually stopped the song. I paused it as I was listening to it, and I went on and I jumped on and I got up, Fractured Mirror, and I'm like, yeah, it's close, and I know he likes Ace. I got to make a note on this. So
Yeah.
that's cool, 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 excellent.
There's
Um,
there's
so
actually if I may, there's actually a for the people that are fortunate enough to purchase the Japanese version of that song, we have an acoustic version of the Journey, and it's just Tony. He made an arrangement of the song. We asked afterwards because Frontiers wanted an acoustic version of the song. Um, when Ty and I spoke about it, we felt the Journey would be the best choice, and Tony made just piano. It's just piano and just Roy's voice. And if you have the ability, I would say to people that are listening, if they have the ability to purchase the Japanese copy of this, I would do it just for that because it's amazing. It
cool,
really sounds fantastic. Tony and Roy together just did something that was magical and special.
nice. How fun was that for you to do, Tony?
Oh, I love orchestrating things, so that really right up my alley. So
Yeah,
yeah,
cool.
yep.
The other question I always like to ask is how much attention, obviously you put some attention, but was it much of a struggle or did it come fairly easy to sequence this album,
Um,
with the order the songs come in?
it was I think I was really shocked that Frontiers kind of gave us as much levity as they did, to be quite honest. Um, in regard to the songs, they let us choose the songs that we put on the album. And they let us just kind of have free reign with the production and everything. I was literally shocked, but I think that had a lot to do with the previous two albums, and I guess I don't like to use the word product, but basically what we put out before then. I think they realized, okay, these guys can do this. And so for me, choosing the order wasn't that tough. The only songs that were really kind of questionable as to where they were going to be put, I wasn't sure whether Bank would be this first song or I Ain't Dreaming About You. It was kind of one of those, they were going to be interchanged. Wherever they landed on the sequencing is that was the only question. Everything else just kind of fell into place.
Yeah. To my ear, I think you got it right. With that intro on Bank, God, if you'd have put that the first song, there'd have been nothing left of us by the time we got to track two. Um, to me, if you want my humble opinion, I think you got it right.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate
Um,
that.
I've got a few notes on Mike's background. Tony, I don't have a whole lot on you. Tell us a little bit about your introduction to music and how you got started on keyboard. You mentioned like John Lord, Don Airy. Any others, that came along the way? How did you
I,
become where you at?
yeah, I mean, I'm a big Keith Emerson fan. I also believe I like John Paul Jones. If you listen to the stuff he did with Zeppelin, his string arrangements and everything he did with them was just insane.
Mm,
So he was always kind of a hidden big influence. I started formally training piano when I was 7.
wow,
Um, and then my music teacher actually said to me, pick a piece you want to learn, you know? And so I did, which was pretty cool. Usually, it wasn't the rapping on the knuckles and with the ruler and play this, but so
what was the piece you picked to learn?
um Aquarius, the Age of Aquarius. I don't know why I just
Really?
yeah, bizarre, but that
Here, I thought it
that's
was
what I
going to be
was
Dancing Queen.
or Horse with no name. It was glorious. I just loved it. It was just.
That's cool. That's like one of the first songs I ever remember hearing on the radio and singing along to for whatever reason, you
Yeah.
Oh
know.
wow.
Yeah, was the Age of Aquarius.
Yeah, I
Wild.
just, it was just a bizarre, like, I just saw the sheet music and I said, let's try that, that's a, so.
Yeah. And Mike, you mentioned, you're a big Ace fan. You got your first guitar at like about around 13, correct?
Yeah, somewhere through 12 or 13. Yes.
Yeah.
I
And
think it was in
then
seventh grade.
cool. And then, but of the Kiss, you liked Vinnie Vincent a lot as well, I read.
Oh, I loved Vinnie Vincent. I love that style. I think in some places you could kind of hear like in my playing, I think you could hear Ace in spots, Vinny in spots. I think Bruce Kulick is probably one of the most underrated guitar players of the 1980s because he did
Hmm.
Kiss so much justice. He played
Yeah,
on my favorite album, Revenge,
right.
from yeah. But I'm also a big John Norum and Key Marcello fan, Rhett Beach, Doug Aldrich. I met
Yeah.
Doug Aldrich, and every time I meet Doug Aldrich, I fanboy like a little girl. It's pretty bad.
I was lucky enough to see Kiss on the Lick It Up tour with Vinnie Vincent, and
As was I.
oh, what
Very
a
cool.
monster! What a monster!
Where
And
are you
you met
located?
what's
Where you
that?
where are you located?
I'm in northern Vermont, so I saw him up in Montreal
Okay. Oh, wow. Very
with
cool.
Accept opening.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. It was awesome. I saw him in Pittsburgh. Same lineup.
Cool. And I was lucky enough, and it took me about 2 years to get him because he always did interviews at times where I was working or busy. I finally, a couple years ago, got to interview Udo from Accept
Oh,
and
wow.
talked about, that show and that tour. And he had nothing but great things to say about those guys.
Oh, that's killer. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
The other cool thing you mentioned, John Norum, I was totally turned on to his album Total Control, which covers
Oh,
Back on the Streets, which Vinny did on
yeah.
his first solo album, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, well, that was actually Vinny's song, and
Right.
Don covered it, and it's on the first Steel City album as well. Tony actually did a really killer opening keyboard solo for that, and
Really?
yeah, and so it closes out our first album, Fortress, and we threw backing vocals on it, which I don't think either of those other versions have.
Yeah.
And I kind of tried to make the like the first solo in the song probably has a bit more of a John Norum feel, and then the ending solo that I put on there has more of like a Vinnie Vincent feel because those guys were such huge influences of mine. I
Yeah.
wanted to kind of pay respect to both gentlemen because they're just both such great players.
I
So
totally missed that in my prep, and I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed.
nothing to be embarrassed about, man. Feel
Now,
free to check it out and then let me know what you think.
yeah, absolutely. Now, Mike, I know you're like are you still working in respiratory what I'm trying to say is respiratory therapy.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Imagine that because rock and roll isn't paying the bills. What a shocker.
I
But
know.
yes, actually, Tony and I, the when we met, we kind of figured out that Tony and I were both respiratory therapists. We
Okay.
both worked in pediatric and neonatal intensive care, and we both ended up having the same schedule. Now we found out we worked with a person that had the same exact name. I mean, and it's like brother from another mother kind of syndrome.
And
Yeah.
we're on opposite coasts, by the
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
Really?
it's pretty
Wow.
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally opposite coasts.
So but yeah, so I still am. Tony, of course, has moved on to just be a full-time rocker, which is probably better for him.
Okay.
But I still have a little bit of time left before I can give the big adios to the gig and just focus on music.
Cool. Excellent. So going forward, what the album comes out the 20th, what happens after that?
I honestly don't know. Jason is more or less like the de facto I guess business manager of the band is about the best way I could describe it. And Jason always does a wonderful job at arranging like shows and things of that nature. He says he's been talking with some people in regard to some shows that might be a little bit more prolific,
Hmm.
and perhaps we're looking forward to things like that happening. So hopefully we'll be able to get out there, get a few shows in, so people can kind of uh, get a feel for us live. We've been fortunate to play some really great shows up to this point, and so hopefully there'll be more of the same.
Excellent. I usually finish up with some silly questions just to have a little fun. But first off, I will ask either one of you: was there anything I didn't ask you, anything we didn't touch on in this interview that either one of you wanted to shed some light on regarding Reverence in Steel City or anything like that?
Yeah, the only thing I'd like to say is, a big shout out to all the, the fan family that listens to us and takes the time to actually, you know, share a little love for Steel City. We appreciate every single person. That's really, it's really awesome that people vibe on our music, and we want to thank those folks for that.
Cool. Tony?
I kind of echo that, but also especially like you guys that keep this
Yeah,
kind of music going, because it sucks that you can't get it into the mainstream anymore. Like,
Yeah.
they're just
Yeah.
not, they have no interest in it. So guys like you, guys like, well,
yeah,
they're the ones really keeping it going.
for sure.
Well, I'll tell you, I never had the patience to learn an instrument, but I could play records really good and I could talk. So, this is where we come from. And I'll tell you, as a child of the 80s, I came of age in the 80s. This is a fabulous throwback album to everything that was great about the 80s, but it's got a fresh sound as well. It sounds dated but new, if you know what that means. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
We do.
you know so it's fabulous stuff. You ready for a few fun questions?
Absolutely.
Sure.
And the guy who gets this first, obviously the guy who gets it second has the advantage because he'll know the question, but I'll start with Tony.
Yes.
Give us an item that decorated your teenage bedroom.
Let's see. George Harrison poster.
Cool. Mike?
Heather Thomas poster.
There you go. Mike, if you could go back in time and eat one of your mom's home cooked meals from your youth, what would you have her prepare?
Oh gosh. I lived with my grandmother after my mother passed.
Okay.
And while my mother was a good cook, and I much respect, loved my mom, my grandmother was just, that woman could have opened a restaurant. I would have to say her cavatellas, man. They were just unreal.
Excellent.
I lived with I'm Greek and Italian. I lived on the Italian side of my family my entire life. And yeah, Grandma LaVolpe was just an amazing woman and a killer cook.
All right.
Cavatella, for sure.
Tony?
Well, I'm German and Swedish, but my mom made a incredible chicken cacciatore.
Nice. Excellent. All right, Tony, favorite old school wrestler?
Oh, geez. Well, Roddy Piper, I liked.
Perfect.
You know,
Yeah.
and of course Ric Flair. I mean, how can you not like Ric Flair?
You gotta like the Nature Boy. Mike?
Well, I probably stopped watching wrestling somewhere in the late 1970s, so I'm going to go with Dusty Rhodes.
Ooh, there you go. Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair. There's a rivalry right there. Mike, if you could pick a television show to have one of your songs from Reverence placed in, what show would you pick?
Oh my gosh, I've never really thought about that. You know what? It, does it have to be a present show, or could it be
No,
like,
you can pick anything.
oh hell, Baywatch, dude? Just
Okay.
like, you know,
Maybe with Heather Thomas. Yeah.
yeah, some of those bikini clad ladies just running in slow motion to I Ain't Dreaming About You or something.
There
Sure,
you go.
that works.
Tony.
Yeah, I guess I'd have to go with that also, because
Yeah.
I really can't think of
Yeah, Starsky and Hutch.
stars.
Okay. Last one. This is one we have fun with. Tony, if they were to make a biopic of your life, what actor would you pick to play you? And it's your movie, your life. You can pick anyone.
Gosh, I don't know. That's a toughie.
It's like a test question.
That's like yeah. Play a biopic of me, I guess. Willie Ames maybe, because I would
Okay.
kind of look a little on that,
Okay.
great American hero side.
There you go. Mike?
Oh gosh, that's a tough call. I mean, because if we're talking like current actors, I live my life a quarter mile at a time. Probably Vin Diesel. Uh, when I was bodybuilding, I used to get a lot. People would be like, because he was super tan, and he'd be like, "You look like Vin Diesel." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna slap you in the face." But that Yul Brenner, man. There
Okay.
you go.
I, I actually would like Gilbert Gottfried to narrate my life story.
Okay.
Tony was born in New York State.
Yep.
He was a young man who just loved playing keyboards.
You
Yeah.
got that spot on.
First time I ever tried to do that too. So hey, what do you know?
Spot on. Well, gentlemen, I thank you for your time tonight. Once again, we've been talking with Mike Flores. Did I get it right?
Yes, sir.
Guitarist for SteelCity, and Tony Stahl, keyboardist for SteelCity as well. Again, Roy Cathy on vocals, Jason Cornwall on bass, and Anthony White on drums round out the band. Fabulous band. Fabulous album. It's called Reverence. It's coming out September 20th on Frontiers Music. And if you're lucky enough to get the Japanese version, you can get that extra version of The Journey, which sounds really cool. And much success for the future, gentlemen, and keep cranking this music out, because guys like me need this stuff, you know.
Well, guys like us will keep giving it to you. Then.
Absolutely. Thank you, gentlemen. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, man. We appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.